Welcome to Unscripted with Nompumelelo. This is the very first episode of this heartwarming podcast. And today I am with Tumi Ramasodi, who happens to be a friend of mine. Welcome, Tumi.
Thank you, my friend, for having me. And this has long been coming, and I'm excited. We are here today.
I'm excited, but also very nervous because you reminded me before we started that we had this conversation in 2021.
Yeah.
And we were at my house, and we had a sleepover.
Yeah.
And we had all these ideas.
Yeah.
But today we're here, 2025.
Amazing, right?
Yeah. And happy belated birthday. A
Wow.
50-year-old Tumi Ramasodi, Mantumi, warrior, all the names that you have.
Thank you, friend. Thank you. I look forward to this conversation.
Great. Let's get into it then. Maybe if you can tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about who you are.
Government area, I am Bitumelo Chrysanthemum Ramasodi, but Kadlala Kitumi Ramasodi. And those who know me, Bampita Mantumi. I am a present mother and aunt. I am a youth development professional. I am a colon cancer survivor and patient advocate. And
Yeah, you're my friend as well, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that is a mouthful. And where did you grow up?
I grew up Komapetla, Pirimapetla, Kasiadi Kasi, Kenwayana Wako Kasi now it's and I was raised by my mom with my siblings, 3 sisters, the baby of the family. And we were raised by my single mom. My dad passed on when my mother was expecting me. So I was surrounded by so much love and so much community, but also so much resilience from my mother. My mother was such a strong, resilient woman, and that upbringing actually shaped the woman that I am today. And I appreciate every milestone, every challenge, and every whatever setback and whatever that happened, because that's who Mantumi is, and that's who Mantumi the warrior is today.
Yeah. So when you speak about your mom, I mean, as a friend, I know that you had a very challenging relationship with her. And it happens, mothers and daughters, sometimes we just don't see eye to eye. We don't agree on a host of things. But I want to go back to what you said now and take it back to the day your mom left us on earth. I mean, can you remember that day?
Yeah. You know, it's funny because the last born, people have this perception that we're spoiled, but funny for me, I'm not that last born. Now I'm last born, but the star and the rock of the family, the runner in the family, yet I am the last born, you know. So
and allowed too.
you know. You know, my friend, and keep break the stereotype. Yeah, the last born. Honestly, I know that I was surrounded by so much love, but I'm such a fighter, and I think it's just because of the woman that raised me, you know. And my mom and I had such a challenging relationship. As Nana of the family, you'd think but it wasn't the case, you know. My mom was always very firm and very strong with how she wanted to raise us and who she wanted us to ultimately become, you know. And I've been, okay, let's speak about the last day, you know. My mom suffered from dementia in the last years of her life. She was such a strong, feisty woman. And that reduced my mom to something that I wasn't prepared to see. I stayed with my mom until her last day, and watching her change and become this person that I couldn't recognize was too much. And I remember that the last day I had come to visit you actually. You said to me, you are going through so much stress, please come through, let's just have a girl night chat, and we'll also pray for mom, you know. And I remember I came over and I was resistant. I didn't want to leave because I left very late. I got here around 8 p.m. and you were like, my friend, I thought you weren't coming. But it's because I was just so conflicted about leaving her on that day, specifically because she wasn't well, you know. But I knew that there was nothing that I could do to change it. And I just also have to leave, you know, just to get a breather. And that's what we did on that day. And I remember we were sleeping and we were talking about mama. And I remember just a lot of funny things that happened on that morning between you and I. We got a card stuck in the ATM. We had to wait.
Wow.
I didn't know that happens, but when we called to report the card, they said someone is around, wait there. So we were just watching this ATM for someone that comes, because we were going to be like, hey, we are looking at you.
The card is
That
there.
was funny. That was so funny. But, you know, someone came and we got assistance and I eventually left. But as I was driving out, Ora calls me and he's like, where are you? Like, I'm on my way. He says, hurry. But I knew something in me just was like, I knew. And I said, is it mom? And he said, yeah. And when I called you, you also were like, why are you phoning me now? You just left now. And I was like, my friend.
Yeah, because I remember you were planning to travel to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And we were praying for mama. We're praying for forgiveness, a host of other things. But in our prayer, it wasn't an instant prayer that God, it must happen today.
Yeah.
And it just happened.
Yeah. But I was saying, my mom needs to rest. I don't think she's happy with herself the way she is. My mom was just that woman, and the way she was at the end, I knew that she wasn't happy with herself, and I knew that I really wanted her to rest, you know, because that wasn't her, you know. And I remember you saying, no, my friend, let's pray for the US trip and everything that's going to happen there. We'll pray about mama when you come back.
Yeah, because we still hoped that mama was still going to be around, right, with everything that she was going through.
Yeah.
But you weren't always staying with mama in your adult life. You were staying in your place and then you moved back home. How was that?
Life forces us to face reality sometimes, and one thing I love about myself is that I'm such a realist. And I knew at some point that I needed to go home, you know, because life wasn't lifing. But in hindsight, I think God knew that mama was going to need me, because at the time, mama Nadula alone, and she was just in control of her life. And we hadn't thought she needs support or care. But me going back that time was such a blessing, because then mama started.
A blessing which you only realized as a blessing later,
After.
right?
Yeah. It was tough, but life was happening. Life happens, you know.
Yeah. It was moving. So we met at work. You were working for an organization called TB Free that doesn't exist today. And I always thought you were loud. I always thought you were loud, but you are loud.
I am.
You have the most infectious laugh that I know And I
You
think
forced this friendship because you were so reserved and always so composed.
wow.
You know, but here was this girl so loud and forcing you to come out.
I still am, and every time I spend time with you, I'm like, yo,
I know.
So I have a threshold for the time we spend together, so that I don't like say no, this friendship is over because now I can't handle it. So and I appreciate you teaching me to love life. There's so many things that I appreciate about you. TB Free, I want you to share what TB Free was about, and you'll see where my thinking goes with this particular question.
We were based co-building at Sanofi, and you were working for Sanofi. And there was some connection though, because I used to come to your department a lot, but you were that uptight. I didn't think we'll get here, you know. But I guess you've said get loud.
Yeah.
When I grew up, people said get papa.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you in hindsight what I think it is now, and it speaks to who my mother was. Now my mother built my confidence, and now as a child, over and then they'll ask you questions because their friends are there, they want you to say, and when I walk, they say, walk, go walk, and they say, Bona, why you shake a drum? You know why? My mom was raising girls, and believe it or not, now my mom taught me how to walk as a girl. Ngwanyana hatsamaye so, ngwanyana uetsa breathe in, ngwanyana utsamaya so. So I walked like that as ngwanumnyane, and people used to say, hey, hi cheiki, hi cheiki. But that was my mom just building my confidence. And back then, but bebarwa papa.
Yeah.
When I already loud.
Yeah.
But I'm my mother's daughter.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I love every bit of that, because through our friendship, you really taught me to loosen up a bit. You've taught me not to take myself too seriously, which I like to some extent. I mean, there are times when I feel like, I mean, really, where do I even start? And I think because of your personality, I take you in doses, right? So I've got a threshold for Tumi, because I know Tumi will, Tumi will rattle me. Tumi will say, you are too tight, loosen up a bit. So I like that, and I appreciate that, because you really, every time I spend with you, I've learned that I should actually learn to have a bit of fun, You've taught me that it's okay to sing together in the car, with a friend. I mean, I do that on my own or in the shower. So I love that about you. But when we met at Sanofi, there was a time where TB Free as an organization was actually coming to an end. And you shared earlier about what TB Free was about. And that's at that point where you joined Boys and Girls Club of South Africa, and you were doing some work. How long were you with that outfit?
I said in my intro, I'm a youth development professional. I worked for Boys and Girls Clubs for 14 years.
14 years?
I can you said I'm 50.
So
I'm 15, but I worked for 14 years.
So I've known you that long. Actually, yes. I've never even reflected on how long we've known each other.
Yes.
14 years with
Boys and Girls Clubs.
Wow.
And when TB Free ended, shortly after that, I found this role with Boys and Girls Clubs of South Africa. Initially, it was meant to be an HR role, but I got into that role and it became a me role, because that's where I sort of found continuity in who I am, really, because I worked with communities, I worked with youth in the communities, and I said I'm a present mother. I am blessed with one child, a son, Oratile, of my own, but I have raised so many and mentored so many children who call me mama, and each of them have a piece of my heart, you know, and that's with the Boys and Girls Clubs of South Africa. I started the first Boys and Girls Clubs in Pimville, and when I left, we had 6 clubs across Gauteng.
Wow, that's amazing. I remember we had a conversation, one of our deep conversations where we talked about charity begins at home. Can never forget that conversation because I felt that it is so important what you replicate, what you do outside, you can replicate that with your own son, who you brought today. And I mean, why did you bring Ura? You never. This is the first time that you brought Ura here.
He never comes with me. In fact, let me tell you, Oratile was my handbag until he was 12. And then he started thinking it's clever, and we started, you know, having our separate lives. And for some reason today, he understood what today meant for you and I, and he decided to come.
Wow.
To be in this moment with us. But that conversation, my friend, that charity begins at home conversation, I want us to talk about that because it talks about a lot about who I am as a mother and maybe as a person, you know. And when I had Oratile, I remember I had a sticker, a decorator konanyana in my bedroom with his cot and toys, and I had a writing that I put up on the wall that said from the time they put you in my arms, that's when your time became my time became yours, something like that. I sort of thought about it now, but I can't remember, but it sort of said, when I had you, the minute you taller, my time just became yours. And that was that. Nale ora, we were inseparable. Like nale ora ke nale ora, you know. And people would always ask me, and I would say, I don't think I would be able to share my love with anyone else. But I'm gonna feel guilty if because I must give them my love. But then no, because I had a million other kids, 100 more kids that share my heart, Ura. And Ura is just easy like that and let his space be invaded by a whole lot of other kids. But to that conversation, you know, I told you how my mom was such a strong woman. My mom was strict. My mom was just strict and firm and everything else that you would fear. And I sometimes would say that's how I raised Ora to some extent. I know people would say, why am I chica so, you know, but this is what I want. This is what I want you to be. But you said to me, you are so soft with kids out there. You are so soft, my friend. I've seen you in action. You are so soft with kids out there, but you're different with Ora. Charity begins at home.
Yeah. Charity begins at home is something that I do and I live by quite a lot. And I try and whatever I do within my family, within my tribe, I also do outside. If I find myself doing more outside, I have an internal conversation with myself to remember that I am a member of this tribe. So all these kids, I mean, is there one child that you can think of that you met through Boys and Girls Club? I remember there was one that I saw who graduated, but are there a couple of stories that you'd like to touch on?
So many. There are so many. There's a family, actually. There were 5 of them in the family at the time. The eldest was, when I started with the Boys and Girls Club, I think he was 10 or 11. And they became my children. But there's so many stories I could tell about Boys and Girls Clubs. There was one that became a staff member, 2 that became staff members who were club kids. From my mentorship and raising them, they became staff members, and I'm so proud of the achievements Banaba Boys and Girls Clubs, coming from communities that really have nothing and are striving, but those kids just fight, for life, and it makes me so proud to be called mama by such resilient children. Today is with, and he's a senior associate. Grew up in a one room with Banaba 5 and the mother and the father. And when we were looking for funding, tertiary, he chose I think what of computer science at the time, and came back and said, we want to sponsor him, but we want him to change, because that course, every child that we funded fails this course. Please tell him to choose something else. And he was like, no. And I was like, no, but this one is, let's do this, And fast forward, today is a senior associate, and he's still my son, by the way. Yeah.
Wow.
His whole family, the kids, they are my children. A lot of kids from the Boys and Girls Club, literally, it's not just being called mama, like literally they are my kids. I'm in their lives like that. So, yeah, that's who I am.
Yeah, I mean, I did see once there was a graduation, and I thought, I don't know who this person is, but the first thing that came to my mind very quickly was, it must be one of your children from there.
Yeah. It's so great, but I don't even think the parents can fathom the immensity of this child. For me, I understand, but not they're just, but I understand just the trials, what he overcame to be that, to come from a school, you go Pimvili, every 2 minutes, and I remember his first semester, he almost failed because he called me crying. I tried to submit, but this thing says, I tried to do this, ma'am. And I was like, go to the lectures, speak to them, Papa, tell them, you will grow through this. And in the beginning, I hadn't paid his fees. I was paying for accommodation. And at some point, he didn't want to ask more money from me. He slept because train station, and he didn't tell me. After a week, he said, I've been sleeping go stationing, mama, get slapper, go to toilet, go stationing. And why? Because mama, you've done so much. But that's just the life I have built with Bana, Bako Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yeah. And then I want to talk a little bit about some of the lessons from Mama's loss.
In hindsight, I think I am happy with relationship yakale mama until the end. I'm happy I was with her until the end. I refused to take my mom to hospital because they will not give her the care that I will give her. And I'm happy with mass teachings, just some nice things come, like when I told you how she built our confidence. I was very and and people would say, hey, Roba Ribese, or Kanda Kulu, that's just me. But my mom was always working on me, and she would say to me, when they say you must tell them, you know what the kids are doing today, knowledge. back then, ka 1979,
Wow.
my mom
Wow.
was saying to me,
That's what you must tell
yeah,
them. Filled with knowledge.
That's why I even go crash. My mom had a song, and
Okay, all right.
it went like this, and I know go crash. They asked me to perform, and I stood up and I sang this. So people are like, "Hey, bo." The song goes like this. Gabi gabi bo. My mama was Xhosa.
Okay.
Gabi gabi bo. Xakela ngiphethe ni uphethe imali cha bo uphethe imfuyo cha bo lalela ngikutshele, and then I do this ngiphethe ikhanda lam abanye abantu bagaba ngemali abanye abantu bagaba ngemfuyo kodwa ke mina ngedwa ngigaba ngekhanda lam. That was my mom.
Was a hero. She was a hero.
That was and
it's your song, right?
That's me. Yeah.
Wow.
And then what?
And I mean, how does someone bully you after that?
I
About
mean,
your big head.
I mean. So
you owned it.
that's who I was.
Wow. I love that. I love the very sweet memories of you and Ma. And what memories are you building with your son?
Maybe we'll ask him, but a lot. Ora is my confidant. Ora nale ora ra qoqa, nale ora re bua ditaba tse ding, nale ora we share so much, and with your help, my friend, to some extent, honestly, I have come to accept my son for who he is. A gift from God, and to understand that I'm just here on earth hokapa ora, but ora hasingwana ka ke ngwana modimo, and it's your reminders all the time hore ora asingwana hao ke ngwana modimo. And if wena to me you believe God has plans for you, then God has plans for ora, because ora ke ngwana modimo the same way you think ngwana modimo, and one thing also that I'd like to mention, my friend, you've mentioned how loud I am and how I bring you out, but the one thing that I love about our friendship is the balance, because you are my brakes. When I go overboard and I go crazy and I think, you were like,
calm down.
Briga bova, and you are my sanity in a lot of ways, my friend. And lehakilimo, you have a way of bringing me here and reasoning with me and making it all make sense. And I appreciate that.
Do you see the thread of the work you were doing with TB Free and the club? Do you see the thread? Do you see the thread of community? Do you see the thread of impact? I mean, would you have ever imagined that for yourself?
No, honestly not. I was just an HR professional. And that's what I thought I am.
Yeah.
But then I realized I'm more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You reinvented yourself. You took your HR training and you brought it into community development. You brought that into impact, an impact that is tangible. Impact to stories of young professionals. I mean, I'm shocked that you've been with the club. You had been with the club for 14 years. I mean, I thought it was like 5 years or so. It's been that long. So you have people that you've brought up.
Definitely.
That are now professionals that when they think of Mantumi, they think of that parent.
Mama.
Yeah.
My old lady. I'm called my old lady.
Yeah.
Mama. My old lady kenna.
Yeah, you're that person. And then the unthinkable happened to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
The unthinkable happened to you. You were diagnosed with a disease, a form of sickness that when a person is diagnosed with that, people start writing their obituaries. They start planning for leaving planet Earth. But you didn't. I'd really like you to share that journey.
So, in 2020, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. And after suffering for a long time from stomach complications, I remember the very last year that I was being so sick, but it was always dismissed as ulcers, IBS, you know, every other thing but cancer, you know. And I remember at some point I requested to see a specialist, and I came back and they said, we're gonna have to do a scope, you know, because one of the questions the specialist asked me was, are you losing weight over and above the symptoms? Diarrhea, constipation, you know. And I said, yes, I'm losing weight. And he said, are you doing anything to lose weight? I was like, no, but we love to lose weight again as women. And he was like, no, it's not good, we have to do a scope. Fast forward, medical aid says you need to pay 10,000 over and above for us to do the scope, something like that. Yeah, and I was just like, it's my birthday month. Have planned to go to Durban, and I'm gonna go. I'll see this in December when I get a bonus. You called me a few days later and you said, my friend, what did the doctor say? What's wrong? And I said to you, he wants to do a scope, but your friend, I'll see it at December. I don't have money, I'm going to Durban. And then he said, friend, something about this doesn't sit well with me. Go to Durban. When you come back, we are doing the scope. When I was stressed, I was like, you will, and I came back, I was like, your discovery, I'm going to just do this December when I have the money. And then you said, no, you're going to do it now. If it wasn't for you, Mpomi, I'm not sure.
I can't even remember that.
Whether, because the symptoms would come and go, and maybe December, if I was feeling okay, I wouldn't have done this after all, even if I had the money to. But one of the things that you taught me, and Mpomi, is generosity. And you said, we are going to do the scope and I'm going to make sure the scope happens. I'm going to pay for that. And you paid for my scope, and I went into that hospital. With everyone, being my loud self. And my surgeon is a Chinese guy, very awkward. He doesn't speak much, but only with me. Even when I was in the ward, the sisters were like, yo, what have you done to Ntatwa how? Hey, Ntatwa how buile batho? And then we did the scope, and then he came back, and I was still laughing. But he was so serious, and he said, I've got good and bad news. Honestly speaking, I wasn't thinking cancer. And he said, good news is that you came on time, and the bad news is that you have cancer. Staring. Not like a stambo. Like a staring.
Yeah.
Oh, cancer.
Yeah.
And at the time, you know, when you want to make sense of things, everything was like, hi, I'm so young for this, you know. But it was my reality. I had cancer, and when I told people, it was almost like, you have the worst one. Yo, colony. Yo. The only reference we had was Xolani, and he had died of colon cancer. But something in me said, man, Tumi, no, not you, you know. And the funny thing also is that 2 or 3 years earlier, I started calling myself Tumi the warrior. I was referring to other challenges and life things that I have overcome, but I really wasn't thinking this. But that warrior name became so relevant when I decided I'm going to fight this. But I knew that I wasn't gonna win this alone. And one thing that cancer did for me is to bring me closer to God. Because I believe I am here because God wants me here. In hindsight, I thought I was gonna fight, but I didn't fight. God fought this for me, and I'm here today. Cancer changed the course of my life. My life will never be the same again, and I know you understand this. I know you get it.
Yeah.
My life will never be the same again beyond this diagnosis, but one thing that it gave me is a sense of purpose. And I appreciate every setback and every obstacle, and every good thing that has happened up to this far to shape me into the person that I am today. And one of the people that contributed to my faith and to who I am today, Mpumikoena, my friend. You are such a resilient person for me that I don't know how you do it.
God.
I don't know how you do it.
That was a tough time for you. That was a very tough time for you. But we prayed, right? We called upon the one person we know can deliver us, and He's delivered you. But the purpose that you talk about, for me, everything that you've gone through in your life, every job, particularly the ones that I know of, really have prepared you for the person you are today. TB free, Boys and Girls Club, and where you are today. Talk about this. Just share a little bit about this job that you are in, how that even came about, because wow.
So when I made that decision to fight, I wanted to see survivors. I read that the 60% survival rate, and I was like, I want to see these survivors. But unfortunately, I couldn't find survivors locally. So I started looking for international people because I could get papa, and I started talking to people in their DMs, in their profiles, and funny, in the US, people were out there talking about, their survival of colon cancer, and also hape cancer, our people don't really speak about it that much. It still has some sort of a stigma with us. And I found a big community, that I reached out to. And to be honest, the cancer community is so warm that I was received so well that I started following organizations that work around colorectal cancer. And one of the organizations I followed was Global Colon Cancer Association. And I remember one day they posted a map of the world with spots all over where they are as a global organization, where their members are. And I responded on that post on Instagram to say, global? What global? Because you are not where I am, and I'm alone here. And they reached out to me in the DMs to say, who are you? What's your story?
Yeah.
And I told them, and they started following my journey closely, and every step of the way, advice, support, and fast forward, when I was beginning with, fast forward to today, I am the regional director for Southern Africa for Global Colon Cancer Association. And when I was beginning with God to save my life, at the time, really in the peak of my treatment, I know that I said to God, if you save my life, I am going to make sure that I walk the journey with patience. No patient that's within my reach should feel as alone as I was feeling at the time, And because I put my story out there, people started reaching out to me and speaking about people that they want me to speak to, and unbeknownst to me that there's a name for that. It's called patient advocacy. And when I joined the Global Colon Cancer Association, I learned that actually what we are doing is a thing, and it's called patient
It's a real
advocacy.
thing.
It's a real thing. So yes, I am a colorectal cancer patient advocate.
And you've met so many people and touched lives. I mean, is there a story of one person that you would like to share, how you've walked the journey with them?
I have
naming them.
a number of people that I am walking this journey with to today, and I've lost a few on the way. And that's one of the hardest things about cancer. I believe cancer has no power, and to lose people sometimes, because I'm human, because we are human, it sends you back to the fact that, what am I doing that assures me that I deserve a space in this world when other people are being killed by this disease? And that kind of gives me or shows me just the power of God, or the purpose that God has for my life. I've lost a couple, and one that stands out also is a doctor who I've lost. She reached out to me on LinkedIn because she would see my posts and she saw my story, and she was local. She's a doctor. She was a doctor at Donald Gordon.
Sure.
And she was diagnosed at stage 4. She only knew then, how is the medical space still missing symptoms? Colon cancer like this. So much needs to be done. Even in that space. But we lost her because she was diagnosed at stage 4, and it was too late for her. But I walked her journey with her. We launched her book. I was at her book launch. She wanted to do this so much, and we did it, and I spoke, and that was the last time I was with her. And we kept talking, and I started losing her for days, and she'd say, my friend, it's tough, my friend, pain, my friend. And eventually she never responded, and family contacted me to say,
she's no more.
She's no more.
Sure. I remember, I'm not sure where we were, and there were people phoning you, and I think I was so annoyed. And they wanted to connect with somebody from Swaziland. I can't remember some story. Lesotho, yes. Here we are on, was it holiday? Was it like a weekend away?
Yeah.
And this person is busy.
Yes. So this woman saw my story online and reached out to Global Colon Cancer Association and said, can you connect me with this person, because I have family who is being treated in India, but India can't do anything for her anymore. And I wish we had met Tumi earlier, but can she help us? We want to bring her back. And that's what was happening at the time. But she's originally from Lesotho, and we've brought her back, but she's quiet, and I'm not sure what is happening. But that's my life and my work.
I mean, I thought we took some time off, and you kept on responding. I need to respond to this. I need to respond to this. And I think only later when you shared that it was that type of situation, I then realized, I was just in awe of this person who's taken time away from work and family just to go away for a weekend, but making time to possibly help a person that you've never met and might not even meet.
I visited her actually. I did visit her.
Wow.
Yeah, I spent some time with her.
Yeah.
Because I remember that for me, I wanted to see people, and that gave me hope. So I'm a hope giver.
Yeah.
So I make sure to visit my patients. I make sure they see me, because if they see me, they may fight a little harder.
Yeah. Yeah. You see life. You don't see cancer. You don't see a sick person. You see life. And that's very important, because when you're fighting cancer, the most important part is your mindset. If your mindset is gone, I'm done, I'm dead, there's no hope for you.
Yeah, we always approach it with there's a person behind the patient.
Yeah. So what does the Global Colon Cancer Association do?
We are an umbrella body for organizations that work with colorectal cancer globally. We give support, education, training, and advocacy, and we advocate for policy as well. Your country doesn't have a colorectal cancer policy, and so there isn't a screening program, there isn't a plan, and that's why colon cancer patients are diagnosed way late, because this country doesn't have a policy, and so we don't have a screening program.
And I'm gonna go to the story about your friend who passed on, who's a doctor, and that links to the policy and screening in South Africa. The fact that you have a medical professional, that scares me, because then what happens to men on the street?
Exactly.
Exactly. What happens to...
The world has moved from... The country says screening age is 50. So when you turn 50, our medical aides should be contacting us and saying, have your colonoscopy done, but that doesn't happen, And the world has, the age now is 45, because we are seeing a lot of young patients who are being diagnosed with colorectal cancer. It's so bad. It's actually so bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you deal with that, where do you take all of that load that you carry? What is that outlet that you use to release, Because if you are sitting with me and I'm going through these challenges, you are taking it in.
Prayer is my outlet, and every time I go through that, I'm reminded of my promise to God, and that sort of gives me the reason why I should go back and do this, because I asked for this. I bargained with God to give me this, and so every time I feel low, every time I lose someone and I question myself, survivor's guilt. You think, why am I still here? But I always go back to God and prayer. And I'm reminded that, remember, you are a hope giver. Remember, you are here so that they can fight for themselves. Remember, you are here so that they can see life, and that just...
Wow. So, I think one of the questions that I've always wondered at the back of my head is, do you ever sit and look at the impact that you've made from when you were TB free, moving to boys and girls club, to where you are now? Do you ever sit down and be like, this is the impact that I've made? And why is that?
I don't know. I don't know, my friend, I don't know, but it's not that deep. You know my attitude to life. It's not that deep.
It's not that deep.
Yeah.
Just go on. Just carry on. When you get phone calls from these young people, say,
I would wake up at 4 a.m. sometimes because a parent is calling me because their child didn't come back home and they're worried, or I'd wake up because someone has been raped and they need transport. I'd wake up and do all of those things. But to be honest, I never really looked at it like with, it was just me being me.
Yeah.
And I worked so long for boys and girls clubs, and I remember Ora saying, Mama, we are going through so much. Find another job. The job wasn't paying well, but my heart. And I kept saying to him, Papa, you don't understand. Until he understood and made peace with it. My heart was just happy. I was happy with what I was doing, and that every other thing did not matter. And I know when I left them, I said to them, I've served my purpose with you, and I'm now focusing on a more personal journey, and this work and the Global Colon Cancer Association allowed me that.
Yeah. So what type of input, what type of impact would you want to see with your current role? What change do you want to bring in society? Because you don't do it's not that deep for you, right? So a couple of years down the line, I'll be sitting with a piece of paper and saying, Tumi Ramasodi was a director at Global Colon Cancer Association for Southern Africa. These are the things that she managed to achieve. If
at the end of it all, this country has a CRC policy and a screening program that everyone can access, equitable access to care for everyone. It shouldn't, where you are should not determine whether you can prevent or survive colorectal cancer.
Okay. So, thank you so much for making time to come through and have this unscripted conversation with myself. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate the friendship. I appreciate the lessons that have come from this friendship. And I really look forward to the change that you are going to make in this space. And I know that one day I will meet one of those kids of yours that are now associate directors in big companies. And I hope one day you look back at your journey and you really appreciate that you are a hope giver and you stand for hope. you stand for impact, you stand for change. And I do hope that your family knows just how fortunate they are to have you, and that your friends too. So thank you so much for this time, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, my friend, for having me. This was a beautiful conversation, and yeah, unscripted.
Very
With
unscripted.
Nompumelelo.
Lovely.
Thank
you
you, friend.
so much. That was it. Unscripted with Nompumelelo. Just spent some time with Tumi Ramasodi, a shapeshifter, an unsung hero, a person who has walked a journey, a number of journeys for that matter, without wanting to put a spotlight on herself, wanting for people to know her for the work that she does. She says it's not that deep. And thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you again next time.